Welcome to the Horus Heresy. I'm your host Rob. And today, excitingly, we're going to be looking at the future of the Horus Heresy 3.0 and what the hell does that look like? Well, okay, that's really, really good. Now we know that the box is launched and it's out. We know that we're going to get all the Liber books, and we know that we've got a bunch of minis on the way. What does it look like? And they kind of have already covered that, or the Games Workshop and SDS specifically have already covered that in talking about the new arcane journals that are going to be released in the future. And they said that they're going to do them very frequently. I asked this question in another video as well, and a question I would like you to answer if you are watching this video or in the chat. How often do you think a 48-page expansion, focused on one region of a battle, would you like them to be released? Every quarter? Every 3 months? Every month? I mean, all of those things are viable and possible. I do wonder what you would want. I mean, even if you were to release them every month, it would take a year and a half to cover like something Legion specific. If you thought about it, if it was to be every quarter, you can expand that into several years. So Horus Heresy is a vast enterprise that is absolutely huge. And as we know with the Black Library, and also we know from the Black Books, which I have sitting on the shelf over there from the first run, they always kind of just reset us back to the Drop Site Massacre, and we don't get much further. I'm really hoping in this run of the Horus Heresy, we actually start to progress to much later parts of the story and to later battles where we can really start to see some of those things that we've read about emerge, which I think would be really cool. However, they have put kind of a roadmap / timeline out, which again is massive for SDS. If you're not 100% certain and haven't been keeping track, Games Workshop really is two companies. There's the main studio who do 40K and Age of Sigmar, a Kill Team and Warcry. And then there's SDS, or Specialist Design Studio. They're different to Specialist Games. Specialist Games actually do Kill Team. But Specialist Design Studio, they do Necromunda, Blood Bowl, Old World, Heresy. The biggest thing to talk about here is the fact that Old World has actually ended up with kind of a roadmap. And for the first time, SDS might have actually worked out that having a roadmap or even some sort of mid to long-term plan might actually work for their game systems instead of just anarchically throwing out anything when they want to. They're still doing that for Necromunda. Don't worry. They've still got no, I think, real roadmap for that. But in this case, they definitely have a roadmap. And I'm very excited about that. Will they stick to it? That's a great question. Lots of comments about them not sticking to roadmaps in the past. I really hope that they do. So this is what they've said. The mission clock is ticking, the drop pods are all locked in. Okay. So at launch, most armies will be supported by their Liber books. Those 5 tomes detail the forces of the Loyalists and Traitorous Dies, Mechanicum, Solar Auxilia, and the Mighty Walkers of the Titan Legion. So, as I've said in the previous video, that's a huge amount of data to go through. Loads of army entries, loads of units, loads of stuff in there, which is fun. Expansive as they are, the forces that fought in the Age of Darkness were much more varied. So there'll be more army lists provided as free PDFs. I mean, sound the alarm. Like, someone call all of the drama slop YouTube channels that are like, I mean, they are only in it for the money. It's a company. Companies need to make money. That's what it is. But classic-based SDS dropping free PDFs out there, which is great. That's cool. Free PDFs. And I guess the real question mark, or the thing that's a big, spicy nugget in this video, is why. Let's get into it. Right, so free PDFs soon after launch to cover smaller factions such as Demons of the Ruinstorm, the Imperialist Militia, and the Black Shields. Okay, we'll talk about those more in a minute. So, perhaps the most notable absence from the launch lineup are the Talons of the Emperor. Fans of these Auramite-clad champions of humanity need to not worry, as there will be a free digital PDF rules pack provided at launch, allowing you to play with your Legio Custodes and Sister of Silence forces until the full Liber arrives. Okay, so let's start there. You don't even, if you play Custodes or Sister of Silence, you don't even need to buy a book. That's just going to be provided at launch for free. So, questions abound. Why would they be giving you free rules when they could tie it up into a book? It's super simple. It's because there'll be new minis. There'll be new minis, new characters, new stuff, maybe a bunch of stuff also in plastic as well. I think that is an obvious hot take. And it's going to get so spicy when we potentially will see those things. Because We maybe will have a ton of new models. We might also get a female Custodes as well to set the internet on fire. That could also happen. So there's lots of interesting stuff here, but that just definitely confirms that there's also going to be more Custodes models that are going to be released. And if you're a Custodes fan or a Sisters of Silence fan, I'm a Sisters of Silence fan. I'd like to see that expanded out even bigger. I think that'd be really fun. If they do that, then they're going to explode open that faction as well. So you could see a ton of stuff put into the game from this. And that's what they're not saying, but are subtly saying, which I think is fun. So legacy armies. Liber books deal with units which are part of the current Horus Heresy miniatures range, but there have been many units with rules in past editions we've never had miniatures for or which left the range. You may absolutely still use these rules and miniatures in your games using the Legacies of the Age of Darkness PDF. Units will be clearly marked as core or legacy, but there are no restrictions on using them, either in casual play or at tournaments. Tournament organizers may choose to exclude certain units from their events, but because this game system leans more towards the narrative side of things, the current plan is all official Warhammer Run events will allow legacy armies. Now, this as a single paragraph is pretty much a departure from not only how the main studio operates, but also how their own studio operates as well. With the Old World, as an example, there was that huge schism with the launch of the Old World that several of the different armies were considered legends and were not officially allowed to see play at events. Now, obviously, people like me on the Square Base show, I've just literally ran an Old World event. Actually, it's Monday I'm recording. I've just ran an Old World event this weekend. Legacy armies are absolutely welcome to play, and we've been actively encouraging them with community-made FAQs and other stuff so people can play them more readily, because obviously it sucks if your Lizardman army or your Dark Elf army can't be played, or Chaos Dwarfs, best army, can't be played. That obviously sucks. So we supported those, and people are still using them in tournaments, even though officially, canon, you're not meant to use them. Now, what's interesting about that is the reason that schism occurred is because main studio and Games Workshop have different profit and loss sheets. Basically, if you buy something for Age of Sigmar and use it in the Old World, then the Old World don't get to say that they made that money. Same thing if you buy something for the Old World, but you use it in Age of Sigmar, or if you buy something for Heresy and use it in 40k, you don't get to say... they don't get to say we made that money and said 40k. 40k doesn't get to say they made that money. Heresy does. So that's why they had that big schism and that departure between the two different sections of the company, which is obviously dumb, super dumb, the dumbest of all dumb timelines, where you could just be making more money and you aren't, which is very silly. However, in this case, I think the reason that we see this restriction lifted is because everything that they're talking about is stuff that they made in the past. This is stuff that they have access to. So their legacy stuff, unlike the Old World, is different because they had previously produced it. So they're not competing with another companies. So they want to keep people who bought their stuff in the past happy and compliant and just like, hey, yeah, sure, your unit is legacy, but don't worry, you can still use it. Thanks for giving us your money in the past, which is, a nice bit of goodwill. Again, a bunch of free PDFs being released so you can use your models when they don't have to is nice. Ultimately, it's also good business sense and it's also good PR. So excellent work on that front. So I think that's really, really positive. Now, in the future, do they amend this or change this, or do they say, hey, we've given you 3 years with your legacy units, no more legacy units for you? That's very, very reasonable. Not reasonable for them to do, but it's a reasonable assumption to make that they may well do that. We'll have to see. But I like this. I think this is a nice change as well. And I think a lot of people, this has had a massive positive reaction. A lot of people are really excited about that. Now it gets crazy because we not only get a digital downloads conversation, we also see a timeline in 2025. The first 5 months of the new edition will bring considerable digital support, covering forces across the Age of Darkness, from the Vengeful Strike Force to the Shattered Legions, to the malign incursions of the Demons of the Ruinstorm. There'll also be rules for Zone Mortalis battles, bringing this compact play experience up to date. So in November, we'll have Zone Mortalis available, right? In November. And we know, what I love about this is because if you are a hobbyist or you hobby a lot like I do, I now know that I can get my Zone Mortalis board ready for November. And I'm like, cool, I'm ready. I've got the board, I've got the bits, I can play. And that's one of the major issues that, especially not doing roadmaps or not telling you what's happening in the future, where it's a real problem because I can't organize it. I now know, for example, if I wanted to, I could book a Zone Mortalis event at my venue in January. I could be like, hey, do you want to play Zone Mortalis in January? We'll have had the book out for 2 months. We can do it. That's cool. That's exactly what you want. If we go back to July, though, we can see Legacies for the Age of Darkness PDF. So, and we get the Talons of the Emperor army list. So that's going to be on launch. Then we get the Militia Imperialis army list. A lot of people are super, super excited about this. I think this also is maybe going to be one of the most interesting points of this release, because this maybe is where we're going to start to be able to see what we might see in the future. Horus Heresy is traditionally, or initially, sorry, was the Marine Legions fighting. I think if you ever have a conversation with someone who's not overtly in love with the setting of the Horus Heresy, what they say is very simply, it's just Marines versus Marines. Now, as a Heresy fan, or if you're new, that is absolutely not what the Horus Heresy became. We started to see AdMech, Solar Ogs, Militia Imperialis, Sisters of Silence, Demons of the Runestorm, Black Shields added into that roster. But how far do we go with that? That's the real question. How expansive are they going to make the Horus Heresy over the next few years, right? Oh, yeah. Also, Knights and Titans are also an element as well. Or actually, maybe they're an element they added, right? They added Knights and Titans. So the real question is, how far do they push it? And I mean that very seriously. Like, take right now in the comments, put on your craziest conspiracy theory hat and ask yourself, how big can they push it? My theory is with the Horus Heresy is they want it to rival 40K, right? Absolutely. So, and with the Saturnine release, it really does feel to me like they will go to the furthest, like either the deepest archives, or they'll go the furthest out they can be. Also, someone's asking, what is Zone Mortalis in the side? Zone Mortalis is more of a squad-based version of Horus Heresy, played as if you were playing inside of a citadel or inside of a spaceship. The idea is that it's like street fighting. It's like a squad version, and it's very cool. So get real conspiratorial is all I'm going to say. Then Demons of the Runestorm are out in September, and also the Legion Inducti rules. And then we get Black Shields. Black Shields are some of my favorites, very, very fun. And also Shattered Legions as well. This is where you can kind of mix and match a bunch of different units. Very fun for painters, but also a very fun and flavorful way of building like maybe another Marine force. If you are interested if you already have like a Legion, let's say you got Blood Angels, you could buy the new box and build it all up till October, where you decide how you're going to put your Black Shield army together, how you're going to do Shattered Legions. Very cool. Now, they have been talking about this a lot, the General Tactica. I've covered this a lot. I won't go into it much more. But obviously, the first one is out. When is the next one coming out? That's a great question. If we see the first one in a couple of months, we know that they are going to make these thick and fast. I'm here for that. I personally believe that Warhammer is best when it's getting constant updates. So I'm super excited about that. New miniatures, though, have got me so crazy hype, it's unreal. Okay, we already know that some of these will be from the drop set preview, but brutal Mark II Assault Marines and much anticipated Mark III Breachers and a huge plastic Fell Blade. All of these are very exciting. Good question I've had in the chat. Wouldn't the Istvan drop site stuff be on the roadmap? Well, the roadmap's not actually a roadmap. It's just a digital roadmap. It's not the roadmap. So, for example, they haven't said where these new Marines are coming out on the roadmap. So I guess I was wrong. This isn't actually a roadmap. This is just a digital downloads guide. An actual roadmap would be cool, though, for sure. But anyway, going back to the new minis, I think the Assault Marines look insane, absolutely insane. So I'm very excited about that. I also love Breachers as well. So I'll be picking up both of those, especially Breachers, especially good if we're moving into Zone Mortalis. And then also a big old Fell Blade, very cool, an updated plastic version of this. I just built the Kratos last week. An incredibly fun build. That was very fun as well. Of course, all this great content to come. It means that Horus Heresy articles here on will undergo a few changes. Much loved Heresy Thursday series will come to an end. And while there are loads of exciting new plastic kits to come, the reschedules won't accommodate reveals every week. But that doesn't mean they won't support in the game here on Warhammer Community. Blah, 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 blah. It doesn't really matter that there isn't like an article every week about the Heresy. I don't think. I think with things like the drop site, Massacre books, post the release. I mean, like, as I said before, with the actual book release and digital downloads, that's months worth of reading, talking about, building models, playing games, years, really, before you go any further. It's actually a huge undertaking. So there's lots of stuff there. So I don't really need there to be a book an article every week. What I need them to do is continually support the game, or I think all of us need, is for them to continuously support the game via these journal tacticas in the future, which I'm really excited about. Got a lot of hope pinned on these, but I also wasn't expecting these to come out. Like when I set up the channel and started deciding I was going to start playing Heresy, I had no idea that this was going to be one of the things that they did. So actually, very excited. But let me know in the comments below what you think. Put your best conspiracies on. I'm really excited about it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.